Good morning, beautiful souls. So it's a very bright morning, as you can see, and I'm actually sitting on a swinging gate. So if you see me moving back and forth a bit today, that's why, because I'm literally swinging as I talk to you. And in front of me is this canal of water that's moving very smoothly. It's really beautiful. And behind me, as you can see, these beautiful low mountains and hills and this pasture land. And this seemed like the perfect place to talk to you about connection and creating connection. It's been on my mind a lot lately, the difficulty that we're all having in the world, and this is worldwide, around creating connection with other humans. Some of it is because of the pandemic and the technology changes that have allowed us not to be in proximity to other humans as much as we had been in earlier decades. Part of it too is what Catherine May talks about in Wintering, about going more internal, hibernating internally to weather the storms that are raging around outside of us on every level. And so this seemed like a great place for me to talk to you about this wanting to move outward, wanting to create connection with other people. And that doing so, often we can feel ungrounded and untethered, which is why I chose to sit on a swinging gate to have this conversation with you. Because I wanted to evoke that feeling of stepping outside myself when we meet other people. Right? That's and part of what we do is that we're offering ourselves up, and it's a very vulnerable thing. Brene Brown talks a lot about this as well, in terms of vulnerability, and that sweet spot within our hearts is where we always are looking for in that other person. We're always looking for that vulnerable opening so that we can meet them. And yet it's the one place that we really don't want to be open and vulnerable. We don't want to offer that sweet spot to others, but that's the only place they can connect with us. So much like sitting on a swinging gate and feeling like at any moment it could go either way and I could topple, that there is this willingness to be untethered, to be swinging, to be vulnerable, and that is part of what we need in order to create connection with other people. So Brene Brown talks a lot about this, right? The place of vulnerability and the sweet spot is where we try and connect with other people. And it's also the most tender place in ourselves, and that's the hardest for us to open up to. And when we can step outside, when we can balance in that place of feeling ungrounded and a little bit like we're swinging between this space that's uncomfortable and exciting, when we could stay in that space of being untethered, we also have a better chance of creating connection with other humans and with other beings. Right? And by other beings, I mean, there's a bird who keeps chirping over here in the pasture, and there have been a couple fish actually jumping. And I don't know that I would have noticed those if I hadn't been open to it, if I hadn't really been listening and wanting to create connection with the place that I'm in and with those beings that are around me. It's much like trying to make this video and having a million things go wrong and still being willing to say, well, it's never going to be perfect, right? It's never going to be exactly what I imagined it. And when we can stay in that headspace, in that heart space, when we meet other people, to remind ourselves that, everyone we meet has had a hard day, and everyone we meet is tired. And everyone we meet has suffered a heartache. And everyone we meet has suffered loss. And everyone we meet knows what joy feels like, or what giggling feels like. And everyone we meet has looked at the sky at some point. And everyone we meet has gazed at the stars or the moon at night. And everyone we meet at some point or another in their life has felt this immense sense of gratitude for the beauty around us. And everyone we meet has also felt this deep sense of loss and the wringing out that loss brings. when we can remind ourselves that every person we meet has felt all those things, maybe not the same way that we've experienced them, that we've felt them, certainly for not the same reasons, but that we share those experiences and those emotions of grief and loss and anger, of joy and bliss and delight. When we recognize ourself in that other person at that level, we have made that connection in the sweet spot, in the vulnerable places within our heart. And so even if we're very different than that person, or even if we're having a wonderful, lighthearted morning and the person in line at the coffee shop is having a very grumpy morning, when we can recognize that we also have grumpy mornings, or mornings where we don't want to say hello to someone, and there are mornings where we want to say hello to everyone and sing, right? And people might look at you a little strange when you do that. I know they do me, but that's okay. I sing anyhow. But when we recognize ourself in that other person, we make that deep connection. We make that human connection. And that is where that connection becomes humane. There is always this idea in all the major religions, all the major philosophies, all the contemplative sciences. There is this same idea of treating others as you wish to be treated. And for me, I read that very much as the reminder that we are all connected. We all have the same types of emotional experiences. Whether the triggers are different or not, we are all human. When we recognize that we all have these same emotional experiences, and we notice ourself, we see ourself in another human, it makes it much easier to understand that that's really what a lot of those texts are talking about, right? It's that treat that other person the way we would want to be treated. I think what all of those texts are talking about is that when we can see ourselves in another human being, it's much harder for us to want to do damage or be mean or thoughtless, because that's not how we want to treat ourselves. So the question that I want to pose for you to play with today is to notice, where are you connecting with your own true emotions? Where are you connecting with your own deep, sweet heart? And how are you honoring that or being mean to yourself when you talk to yourself? And when you let go of deriding or talking yourself down, what happens in your ability to connect with others and to notice those sweet, tender spots in other people? I'm Amrita Rose. This is An Unstoppable Life. Thank you for joining me today. If you like it, please hit the like button, save, share, and keep your eyes peeled to this space for more wisdom.